this
would you
one,
see me at
so,
the
yeah.
stage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
Oh, that's right, yeah, because your
But, like,
husband was sick.
I was
Yeah.
like you during the
And then I
pandemic,
wasn't
so
sick
during the
all the
pandemic,
time.
I
Good.
was like,
Sick.
hey,
That's
yeah,
good.
give me
Yeah,
nice,
but
like,
better safe than
tops.
sorry,
Yeah.
so.
Yes.
And they're good
Yeah.
at that. So they're really good at, like,
That's
learning your
beautiful.
style.
Big meeting, whatever date that is, next, on the 22nd.
I can see him if I'm willing to take the two of them out to dinner. Richmond, which you what? That would have been better.
Actually, I got one more bite left.
Jen Jessica, you may have had this last month, but I wasn't here, but your hair is awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's new color, so you didn't miss it.
I love it,
Thank you.
love it.
Gonna do all the galaxy colors gradually. So, I wasn't like purple, but in the time I was trying to do purple,
Yeah.
then we're out of the purple. So, if you try to mix it to get purple, so like we should have blue, but if I had actual all the way blue, I was like, why not? Something different. A lot of things different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was nice. It was, I'm
I had a season where I dyed my hair purple too.
Another one in March
It was
and
a good
another one
season.
in April, and I'm like, really don't like cold weather.
It
The minute
was like
gets
a
cold in, like,
pretty
December,
strong
I'm like,
magenta.
where can I go?
But it wasn't in like all of my hair, it was just like.
Even if I can't be there,
just
it's
like
nice to
the
see
tips
the
of it, all purple.
pictures from
Even, like,
people traveling.
That
I don't know.
vacation, I didn't even
It's a
take
little
it at
different.
work, I
It's
worked
kinda
the
streaky
whole
there.
Oh
time.
my gosh.
But,
Yeah.
like, I was sitting outside, it was 85 degrees, it just
I
like,
wanted
better.
to get it all the way down, but when I got sure it was not easy to do it. So the first color I had on my tip was like a bright Indian red.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first year in
And I
many
looked
years
more
that my
cool,
kids
look
had the
at
same
myself,
spring
can you
break.
tone this down, please?
Once one of them went off to
Mhm.
college, and they no longer had it, and so we're actually going somewhere for spring break for the first time in many years.
Tips.
And two kids who can go at the same time.
Mhm.
I think we're live. We're live. Okay.
So Lindell isn't on this year.
Yep, we're on.
She is on? Oh, okay, we just can't see her yet.
Okay.
Great. There she is. Neat, all the way across the world.
It's great to see you all. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm going to mute just in case. I do know that the internet connection is really, really awkward, but I will do my best to listen in carefully.
Great.
Good evening. We will officially call this meeting to order at 6:35 PM.
I will do attendance. Jessica,
Present.
Ernest,
Present.
Jeanette,
Here.
Mary,
Here.
Wolfgang,
Here.
Catherine is not here, right? Okay,
Oh, she messaged me to say that she wouldn't be here today.
thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. Andy
Here.
and Lindell.
Here.
Yay.
And now we get to recite our mission awkwardly, always out loud. Okay.
Act as a strong advocate to justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership
and
And
guidance
in the area of civil rights.
Hey, it's not as awkward in person. It's just
not.
awkward on
Pretty
Zoom.
good.
I think we'll do
Like-
it. Trying to find them.
All right, we will open up for public comment. Oh, wait, sorry, I have to say, to read my statement. So we were gonna open up for public comment. The commission welcomes comments and questions and commits to listening carefully and thoughtful to what is presented. A maximum of 16 public comment time slots are allowed per meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. The commission requests that members of the public refrain from engaging in personal attacks against commissioners and staff members and asks that comments and questions focus on matters related to human rights within the city. So there is a timer in here that we will start if you have a comment and question. So we'll open the floor if you have anything. I think we have 3 guests. And if you're online, you can raise your hand and then we'll promote you to panelists. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to unmute. Anyone?
No hands raised at the moment.
Okay. There will be another opportunity for public comment. We'll move, so there's no response to public comment because there was no public comment. Now we have to approve the minutes from 1:10.
And that's a typo. I think it was 119,
119.
wasn't it? It's funny. I
It
think I
didn't feel right.
saved. I had a new version of this that I corrected that, but I still saved the
It's
old
okay.
one.
I move to approve as written.
Second.
All right. Ready for a vote? Jessica?
Yes.
Ernest?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Mary?
Abstain.
Wolfgang?
Yes.
Andy?
Abstain.
And Lindell?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
I don't have many chair updates because we're gonna spend quite a bit of time today talking about the retreat. But just want to announce we do have a new commissioner who'll be joining us next month. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Hey, Suzanne. So she'll be joining us next month, and Todd and I and Ernest were able to meet with her last week. Was it last week? It feels like so long ago for some reason. So thank you for being in the audience today with us. That's all my updates. And then I'll turn it over to you to Todd, the staff report.
All right. Well, not too many things to provide as far as updates, but we did, you'll see in the packet that we did drop in the data that we have so far for 2023, so you can take a look at that. There's some new fields that we're working out to try to collect some more information about like the duration of time we spend on certain types of contacts to see kind of how that pans out. So that'll be interesting to see how it works out. Just a note that some of the numbers might change as we fix our formulas, because a lot of these have new formulas in them and we're debugging as we go. But I think they're working because Lily's pretty good at doing that stuff now. So
And they're in minutes, Todd?
what's that?
These are in minutes?
These are in the agenda packet, so they're like,
No, I mean, are the numbers we're seeing in minutes?
oh,
In the unit of minutes?
yeah, in the unit of minutes, exactly right, that's right.
Yes, they're in the
As
minutes.
close as we can come to,
Okay.
yeah, the,
I gotcha.
or no, I'm sorry, it's in hours, sorry,
Oh,
hours.
okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, what are we looking at?
Let me look at,
16
let me go
minutes?
back over there, I'll tell you
Hours.
where it is. That's a good point, we should probably label the type of data that you're seeing there, because it's usually just quantity or account, if it's not a percentage, but those are hours spent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Just on contacts, so we don't like really record the time we spend afterward working on documents and doing things like that, but it's the contacts that we're trying to record a little bit. Other than that, I was gonna let you know, and thanks for those who like made sure to ask, like, are we virtual today or not? It's confusing because we keep having these kind of back and forths. It looks like, based on the wind meet, thanks Wolfgang, is going to be on the 16th of March. Based on what I heard, it's going to be sometime in the afternoon, after work time. So one thing that's challenging is for public meetings, we have all these requirements under city policy that the place has to have be an approved meeting space. And there are very few of those. That are also easily publicly accessible. So Carver Rec is what I found, and I just reserved it from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and just held it because I knew we were going to use sometime in the evening. So there's that. So that's the 16th, and then we can talk more about the exact time, but I've got that blocked off. And then for the committee meeting on the 6th of April, which is another time when council will be in here for a budget session, I am reserving a smaller conference room that's also in Carver Rec. So that seemed to be available. The big one was not on that date. So I reserved that from the usual time starting at 6:30, but only up till 8 because they close at 8. So, but committee meetings are usually a little quicker anyway. So, so there's that. That's really all I was going to share. If you have any questions about any of the stuff in the report or anything I didn't talk about.
Todd, I do have a question about, you made a statement about not keeping track of minutes spent doing work?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, so Mary's in the room. She knows about like when you guys like at legal aid, you gotta like track every
Yeah, 1/10 of an hour.
10th of an hour on your like by case. We've never done that before. We don't really have a system to do that yet.
But we did it because there was a reason that
Yeah.
we didn't do it because it was
Billable
fun.
hours, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought about that just to say like how much time do we spend on each like, I guess attached to each person perhaps. But it's all such a kind of a jumble in the day because the phone's ringing and you're working on a thing and then another thing comes
It
in.
also
and so,
takes real time. Like,
Yeah.
people put in the time they spend putting in their time.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So like if you
Gotcha.
didn't need to do it, it is kind of burdensome
super-
to do it in the way that lawyers do it at any.
Yeah. So at this point, like just because we're so public facing and it's really hard to regulate like what you're working on at any given point. I don't have an exact way of doing that, but the contact stuff will definitely give us some data. So at least when we're interacting with somebody, we know how long we're spending on that interaction, what the interaction involved, that sort of thing. And then the work that we have to do afterward, it's just part of our day, basically. So,
I think it does also, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think it does also like help us a little bit like know kind of how much general activities take, like how much a certain type of contact like might take.
true.
If it's like if it's an inquiry for like navigation versus if it's an inquiry for a different kind of thing that we do. I think it makes it easier at the end of like each month to be like, it looks like most of our navigation maybe takes this amount of time and most of our like other calls take a different amount of time.
That's right.
One thing I was gonna suggest, I'm not a lawyer to do billable hours, but I do consulting work, which I do have to do billable hours. But even outside of that, I'm just curious about the way that I work. And so there's a free app called Toggle Track, TOGGL Track, that does a great job if you can put in like, you're meeting with different people. So let's say I'm meeting with Todd, so I can put in like timer with Todd. And then you can also go in like afterwards to put in time, because often I forget like when I'm doing it, but I use that and it's really easy, it's really intuitive, happy to show it to you, but it may be a good way to just like track that work that Ernest was talking about afterwards.
That's a good idea. And maybe there's also like maybe a more general way we could track it. Like rather than saying by person, we could say time spent doing like administrative tasks
Yeah.
or complaint work or investigative work or navigation and advocacy work
Yes.
that's not interaction.
And
So
you can code it however you want.
Yeah,
I have mine up
that's-
right now, and I have mine like per project or per something that I'm doing. And the great thing about it is you can note like whatever it is. So like right now I keep track of like Human Rights Commission, because in general I want to be able to contribute once I leave. Like this is actually how much time I spend on Human Rights
Totally.
Commission.
Yeah.
And so you can have that as like the project, but then whatever it is you're doing that day, you can specifically say. So like today
like
I'm
that.
saying it's the HRC regular meeting, but then it keeps all my HRC stuff together.
that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to look into that. Thanks
Yeah.
for that suggestion. That's a good idea.
And I was just asking, because I just want to, I know you guys do a lot of work, and I know you do a lot of great work, but I just wanted to make sure, when we look at contacts and things, that, you know, if it's low for, you know, it's not low because, it may be low because it's a contact, it's not a lot of numbers, but that time that you spend with that contact, you know, could be an enormous amount of time.
Yeah.
You know, just because the numbers say you didn't have a lot of contacts,
Right.
doesn't mean that you did not spend a great amount of time with that contact or the many others that you see. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that we keep that in the focus of when we're doing this work, that, you know, a lot of things are happening for you guys in the office, and you guys all spend a lot of time doing the
Thanks.
work.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate it.
I had two questions. First, I see you have a meeting scheduled with Eric Steinecker for this coming week.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
just curious if you would want or welcome HRC like presence at that meeting, or if
You are
not
most welcome to
necessary.
come. Thanks for asking. Like I can, if anybody does want to join for that, that's a meeting with Eric Steinecker, who's he's the interim director at HUD for Fair Housing Assistance Programs, FAP programs. Yeah, if you want to join, it's a Zoom meeting because he's up in DC. let me know, like shoot me an email and I'll forward you the link. Yeah, it's basically, I'm just kind of gonna ask like, okay, we did the ordinance, what next? Because I don't know. I've never done this before, so that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, I'd be interested in attending that if it can work with us.
That'd be great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Second question I have is if you notice, you, Victoria, have noticed anything in like the trends of your interactions with people coming into the office? If there's any more, housing or employment discrimination complaints? Any just trends have you noticed the past couple of months?
Past couple of months, that's a good question.
Doesn't need to be data driven if it's just like qualitative.
See if I can just do it out of my head, but hopefully that matches the data. Like if the data says that the exact opposite, then let me know. But I would say that most of what we've been seeing in the last 2 months has been housing related. A lot of it, the data will tell you that. A lot of it navigational, like people saying, not necessarily alleging discrimination, but saying like I'm having trouble with some aspect of housing, right? Whether that's like understanding the voucher process, like they're struggling to attach a voucher to a place, or they're looking for navigation, housing navigation, finding housing. And so a lot of it is like redirecting and or facilitating a conversation with a landlord and say like a voucher administrator or something like that. And then it's also, we've had a few folks that we've known for a long, long time that we have assisted, through a long process of some type of negotiation. So some folks we've actually seen some success, like, oh, they're finally housed or things like that. So there's been a bit of that. We have a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are a number of people who've just come to visit us on a regular basis for many years. And so, we try to guide them to resources, but not get too deeply into it. But it's hard because we're maybe a little overly compassionate at times. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. No new complaints filed yet this year, though. I think, yeah, that's true. We had some at the end of the year that we got to get the assessments done so that we can make the move toward the next step in the process.
I got a question following up on that. Given the number of requests that you get that are more about accessing resources, is there another body in the city that should be responsible for that, or a nonprofit, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's part of the reason we're collecting the data, so that the city management can understand how we're spending our time, and then they can talk about why, right? So what would better fit that need? Sometimes it's easy to refer somebody, like that's a clear thing, like, oh, here's the phone number you need to call, here's who you need to ask for. If you don't get through, let us know, we can facilitate a conversation. Sometimes there's just nobody. And I think, sometimes there's just nobody for certain things, rather than to go into details about what's missing. But yeah, that's the challenging part. And so chronicling that, and then hopefully encouraging maybe some creative staffing or something like that, either within in the city or outside, is part of what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
I know you're here to support us, Todd, but do you have like an end date of kind of you've done gathering and now you're gonna make a request, or what can we do to support that, if there's anything?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like for 2022, we kind of started this process with Lily going back through and relabeling everything that appeared to be sort of a navigational type interaction. And then I did an aggregation of all that data and talked about we broke it down by staff, and I think I showed you this. And then I was able to pass that to Ashley and Mr. Rogers to say, this is approximately what it would cost. Well, at that point, we hadn't tracked how long contacts would take. Now we're going to do that. So it's kind of probably an annual thing. I think we'll just see how it pans out, or maybe midway through the year we can send something to Ashley to say, here's what it's looking like from a time perspective per staff person this year. So you can put a dollar figure on that and decide, what it is that the city needs to create. So yeah, at this point, I don't know if there's an ask per se. I think it's more kind of a city management question that we're trying to help answer.
Any other questions?
The meeting with Eric Steinecker on the 21st, is there any limitations on that as far as who can attend?
It's a good question. In terms of like, if we had too many commissioners, would it suddenly become a publicly noticed meeting?
Correct.
That's a great question. I have to ask, to be honest, if you're not conducting commissioner business, let's say it was Eric Steinecker's presenting at a housing conference, like you could all show up and go listen to that. If you, but this is
office,
commission-related
yeah.
business, so, yeah, I'm making an interpretation here, so we probably should maybe ask. And not show up as an entire commission. If we wanted him to come back, I'm sure we could invite him to a commission meeting if you want to do that too.
Yeah, I just don't want to, I wanted to be a part of the meeting. and
You're
listen to the
interested
meeting,
too?
But I don't want, again,
Yeah.
I know that Wolfgang,
Yeah.
You could have two, right?
yeah, but I don't know if anyone else wants to be involved, so that's why I
Yeah.
just don't want to
What time is the meeting?
sure.
I may not be able to go. It could be an easy
I have to look at
solution.
my calendar. I
Okay.
don't remember. Let me just do this. I'm going to make a note that both of you want to come,
Okay,
and then I'll send an email to everybody to say, this is how it works after I consult with Allison, because it's a little confusing. We have a policy that actually says, anytime two or more meet, it has to be publicly noticed. And I was like, well, can I not meet with the chair and vice chair to plan the agenda? And the advice was, you can do that.
okay.
But you're not, it's like transactional business where we're voting on things. I think that's where they're mostly concerned. But I'll find out again to make sure so that everybody knows.
I just want to make sure.
Yep, thanks.
I had one other follow-up question. Victoria, I really appreciated the very robust amount of outreach and organizations and meetings that you're attending and staying in the loop and making those connections. I noticed at the end it talked about you working on the educational materials. And I know at one point council, or the commission was supporting with that a while ago, with the video that was being, produced or whatever. So I'm just wondering, do you need support with that, or how is that going?
I mean, yeah, I would definitely love to have your input on it. I was telling Jessica a little bit, but we decided with the graphic designer to start. Initially, we have been thinking to just kind of plunge into doing like a protected activity, just like per video, and have there be like 5 videos on protected activity. But we thought about it a little bit in the office, and we decided to maybe start with just like what is the Office of Human Rights, and just do like a really short like introductory, like what the office does do and where you can find us, and like what we don't do, and I guess that, but maybe less explicitly, but like
What we don't do.
but just like a broad, like, this is what our office does, and this is what you can bring to us that we can help you with. And so she's gonna get started on that. I'm working with our fabulous intern Lily to kind of get sort of like a script written and then re-recorded. But if anybody would like to look that over, I would appreciate any feedback if anybody has the time to look at it, if that sounds like something that is like plain language and accurately describes our office.
Yes.
Victoria,
Yep,
what about other voices on the recording?
Yes, or that. If anybody would like to actually record this, it's very fun and very painless.
I would
Yeah.
love to do that.
So let us know if you'd like to be a voice once we get the script.
Please let
Yes.
us know, because it's a
Yes,
lot of
reviewing
fun.
script, all of it, yes, top.
Yes,
For me.
awesome.
Amazing.
That tickles my outreach.
Is this in a collaborative workspace that we can kind of look in whenever we?
Yep,
Because I'm thinking if it's
Yeah.
something we can just access whenever we have a chance, that might.
it's on Teams, so we can use SharePoint to give you access to the document, and you can make comments on it. That would be
awesome.
That's so exciting that you're interested in that. Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Did I
Remy,
read somewhere that
Yeah.
we may do it in Spanish also, or I'm confused because now I've read too many things and they're all blurring together, but.
Yes.
I thought we talked about
One day.
being about.
maybe one day. I think what we want to find out too is like how we're able to use the video once it's created for us, and if we can translate it and like just re-record the audio and just apply the audio in different languages over the same video. Yeah, probably. We haven't figured that out quite yet. Which also reminds me, there was a survey that Ashley sent out to team leadership about language access. So language access piece is starting to come together. I just want to make sure, because I know that was something that we were all interested in. So she's surveying department heads to say, what is your current language access scheme, and what resources are you lacking, and what do you need? And so it's in the works, so that's kind of exciting. And I want to give a shout out to Remy. You helped record the first script, and we may not bother you too much more for more recording, but we might. But we also have we may just record in the office with like computers and a microphone too. So we'll figure out just to be. So you heard us say that, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do a whole bunch more stuff. But anyway, thanks for helping us with the first one.
Mary, did that answer your question? Yeah. Oh. Victoria, did you want to speak to anything? I mean, it's in the notes, but is there anything you want to draw to our attention or update us about?
I don't know. I don't know if this counts as drawing attention or as an update, but it was good to see both Wolfgang and Ernest at the open house for the Haven. That was really cool. That was a great open house as well, and very, very informative. I think in the realm of outreach, I think it's still there's not like a ton of like regular outreach activities going on, but I think as we move towards the end of the year, we can go back to maybe at the start of each month. I can send out like events that I'll be tabling at.
That'll be helpful.
I will say, we got an email today about the Thomas Jefferson Planning District's Coming Back Home conference, which is like an all-day housing-related, like regional discussion. I can send out emails about that. I'll be tabling at least for the start of it. I'm not super certain what the parameters for like vendors who are being permitted to table there is, but I've signed up to do that. And I can send out like the flyer if anybody would like to attend or would like to come for any part of it. We can maybe see.
When is that, do you know?
It's on March 12, I want to say. I'll confirm in the email.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just learned today that from City Manager Sam Sanders that there may be actually more tickets available if anybody on the commission would like to attend that. I was invited to attend, but I think we're just going to have maybe the table there for part of the day, and we just can't probably leave the office vacant for a whole day because it really sets us back. So, but if any of you all would like to go as sort of a way to get some knowledge about the housing scene, it might be a good opportunity. So send me an email.
Well, Victoria's gonna send us emails, and we can reply to the email.
Oh, yeah,
and say
'cause
yes.
yeah, once you know when it is. By the way, the Eric Steinecker meeting is on the 21st at 1 p.m. And I'm sending Allison a question now as to how many people can attend before it starts to look like a public meeting.
If it's at 1 o'clock, I can be there.
Cool.
Yeah, on Zoom.
I think I might have class.
It's a fair excuse.
And I can't attend because I have some.
Victoria, that event you were talking about, you said March the 12th?
I think it is. I'm hunting for the flyer now, so I can just send that to you in case.
I'm hoping it's a Sunday, because if it's a Sunday, I probably may be able to attend, but if it's not, if it's during the week,
Yeah, March 12th is a Sunday.
yeah, so.
Let me-
It looks like it's March 24th.
Yes, Friday, March 24th. I'll forward the Eventbrite out to the group.
Okay, thank you.
I will say, I had, like a couple of like city departments attended Housing Opportunities Made Equal. They had a community discussion like last Thursday, I want to say, last Wednesday or Thursday. That was very good. It was just a couple of hours, but it was Home of Virginia, which is based out of Richmond and does anti-discrimination work when it comes to housing. So they'll do fair housing classes and education. They've done like advocacy initiatives. So they came and just did a listening session with a lot of different housing nonprofits or city agencies and just asked questions about how do people, for instance, know their rights as renters or know how to access reasonable accommodations or kind of what the housing scene looks like here and things like that. And that was a very productive discussion. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing what comes out of like a whole day discussion with sort of like-minded people that is at a bigger scale, because it was very interesting.
Was that on Zoom?
It was in person.
It was in person? Nobody recorded it, though?
I don't think so, just because it was like pretty informal.
Okay,
But I think they're doing a second one.
okay.
I'm not sure when. They just said keep your emails open.
Okay, I would love to hear that discussion as
Absolutely.
far as what people feel and about trying to find housing here in Charlottesville and how to make that difference to get people in housing here.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Todd, Victoria? Okay.
Do we lose Lindell?
Well, I don't know.
She said that her internet was kind of wonky.
Well, she said, I'm so impressed by the amount of work that you and your team do, Todd. She
Mhm.
may be dropped off. Oh, she dropped off.
Oh, bummer.
Okay, so, we're gonna move on to the annual retreat planning. So Ernest, Todd, and I were able to meet last week. Everything feels like so far away, even though it was just last week. So we identified the place, but we did spend a portion of our time talking about a space. We are still putting together the agenda, but one of the things I'm gonna explore, I know I mentioned this a lot, but I love training, and I love that Right to Be training, which I've shared to you guys
Yeah.
about, okay, you guys remember? I'm always talking about that. So I have a meeting tomorrow with someone who may be able to do it. I don't know their schedule. I don't know if it'll work on specifically the March the 16th, because even when I filled out the form, they were like, do a date range. And I was like, well, Thursday and Friday instead of one day. So now that we've honed down the day, it may hit or miss, but I think it'd still be great to do. So that if it doesn't work, maybe for our retreat, maybe having them come in at a different time, just to meet with us. I think it'd be a great exercise for us to do, but also because it's public facing, people would be joining in that too. So just, that's something I'm investigating, and we'll have a meeting tomorrow. One of the other things I was talking about, maybe if we can't do that training, is that I know we have a new commissioner coming on, and the educator in me always loves to do like teaching. And I just did this activity related to, I've done this activity before many a times in person, but I had to do this activity, I modified it for on Zoom, which was really interesting. But it's a speed activity that talks, like just really just expresses how we all have privilege. It's beads because it's like 7 different areas of privilege where you read statements, and if the statement like applies to you, then you take a bead. So some classes, like I don't take beads. There's only like one class that I wouldn't like take a bead from, at least where I am now in status. But I'm giving away the whole activity, but I love doing it because no one, I've never done this where no one walked away with 0 beads. We may have less beads than others, but no one walks away with 0. So just an idea for that. We've also talked about if that didn't work out, well, that means like default. I think we should definitely do it if we can't get another one. And we've also talked about possibly bringing in someone to do a training related to community resilience initiative, just addressing like trauma and just being able to identify that, because we just engage a lot of different people, and when we are outreach events, to have that kind of support with us. So outside of training, we were talking about the bylaws. I know Catherine's not here. That was something her and I were gonna work on, and we kind of put on hold because the city was doing some things related to that. So maybe a point of discussion. We'll talk about the annual report presentation, and then most of the day will be spent on strategic planning for the year, just kind of planning out our priorities. y'all did, we did collectively a great job last time. I was identifying a lot of priorities, which I think were great and in good spirit for the time. And then life happens and we all have full-time jobs. And so maybe this year kind of narrowing down the scope, but again, still working together as a commission together to figure out what we want to focus on for this year, to establish our focus for the commission this year based on our ordinance and what we're doing. And then we talked about food, because we don't want to bring you for a power-hour meeting and not have food. I know it sounds silly, but what we came up with was possibly Pearl Island, Angelique's, or Roots, and then that was all of it. So just kind of summarizing, but if y'all have questions, like, this is the time to give me your input. And we're looking to honor the time, Mary, that you're available, so for, like, after 4 to, well, we can't go past 8 o'clock, so.
Appreciate that, thank you. I
Yes.
mean, I was fully prepared to have to miss part of it, but
Yeah.
I will definitely be there, it's on my calendar.
Yay.
Do y'all have preferences for, I mean, any of that? Like, what are the kind of things you want to talk about, bring up?
Those all sound great. I'm happy to do any and all those activities, depending on what's feasible. And also, you had me at Pearl Island.
Oh, yeah.
I was telling Todd, I go, well, not a lot of events, but I go to a lot of events that cater with Pearl Island. Because it's good.
My son had a summer job working at Pearl Island.
Oh,
and
my
He came
gosh.
home and he's like, I know how to make the plantains. And I'm
Oh.
like, that was,
Yep.
You wanted me at that.
it was good.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it all sounds really good. Thank you for, meeting and fleshing that out. I was wondering, in terms of training, if there's anything that the Ashley Marshall and the Ready Department of the city, like any models that are being shared at the city level, that it would be good for us to know. Like, is there any kind of racial equity and diversity training going on within the city? Are they using the excellence model, or, I don't know, anything like that, that we could that would connect and help us understand better how the city's working around those issues?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I know is that I think there was 2 different sessions of the groundwater workshop.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to one of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the main push thus far from Ashley's side of things. I think individual departments may do things, like I know, like Department of Human Services and Misty, they've done some good things as well. And we've taken some of the other, like, Ashley will send us notices of other classes, like mostly from Equity in the Center, that have been pretty good. Like, there was like Building Black Power. There was one that was like Beyond White Fragility, which was like a affinity group, like white affinity group, like talking about how to dismantle racism, things like that. But yeah, as far as like an ongoing citywide effort, I don't know of anything right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that we could just like plug into. But when what Jessica was saying about the Community Resilience Initiative, so that's the training around trauma-informed care. There's a whole system of classes around that. I don't know, maybe you all are familiar with it, but I do know that there are some trainers now within the city in
Yeah.
Department of Human Services and Social Services. So I was going to reach out to them and see like
Yeah.
how available they might be. The other folks that are doing it right now are trainers through Region 10, but maybe see if we can do it in-house. Would be kind of good.
And I suggested that, just to iterate that again, when you're dealing with diverse groups of people, I know that work has drastically helped me, even though it may not, like, I'm doing STEM, how does that apply? Because we're humans and we have things that are going on. And so I have found that training like really, really helpful to better be able to navigate with when someone's really actively in a trauma moment or what we call like a crisis moment, being able to kind of like calm them or kind of de-escalate before it escalates kind of thing, but being trained to like what to look for and how to respond. It just, in all of these training, it's not about being the expert or the clinician per se, but it's about having enough knowledge to point them to the resources that they may need.
I think that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of checked, but this is just always my thoughts on that. So, what do we need to confirm the time, Todd?
Yeah, so the reservation for the space in its entirety is 4 to 8. So I figure there'll be a little bit of setup time. Like I think they use that part of that time to set the room for us. What time do you want to start? Maybe would be the question.
Is 4:30 versus at 4, but 4:30 looks better for people?
Yes, 4:30.
I mean, in the
Andy?
past, we've done a whole day.
Yeah.
You know, so I think as much time as we can make work,
Make of that.
I'm flexible.
yeah.
Okay. Andy, I didn't hear back from you.
Just, flexibility.
Okay.
So I do have a question about the sort of narrowing down a focus and like, I guess I'm wondering like, are we just gonna come in and everybody has like 100 like, or are we gonna
How we're gonna do
present ideas there? Are we gonna try to, because I actually do think that choosing like a couple like main big projects would be really helpful to giving us some focus, but like what should be our process for doing that? I guess, like, do you want us to do things in advance? Do you want us to bring ideas or circulate things by email, or like what makes sense to you in terms of like how we get through that process?
Yes, I have thoughts. I love Mary because she always is like, but tell me the how. I hadn't thought about that far. Let me think about it.
Okay.
My initial response to you is similar to what we did last time, but if we could, last time was more of what you described. We kind of did like a dumpster dump of like, here's the 20 things, and then we dwindled it down to 5 things. Maybe we don't have to do that, but if we could potentially come prepared with a few, or even, I'm giving you a straight out response because I hadn't thought about that of the how. Let me slow down my thinking. One suggestion we can do is take the 5 focuses from last year and kind of yay, nay, that, and have that be the center of the conversation.
And just remind us what they are. I mean, honestly,
Yes.
I don't even, I'm like embarrassed to say
Okay.
this. I don't remember what they are.
Okay, I can also send that out.
Yeah.
And then maybe that, we can do workshop via email, so I can resend that out. We can workshop, well, the thing that's the top of my mind that's stuck from those 5s, or Wolfgang, you're gonna do it, because you're amazing.
You're
Yes.
talking, I got you.
Great. One of the things that's standing out from that was the community engagement and then the housing, right? I think that's right. I'm gonna stand in chair and believe that that was the right thing. Housing and the community engagement, and then the other were, don't make me try to say it right now because I can't think of it. But yes, we can send that around, and then if that doesn't hit and we're like, we don't wanna do any of these, we can workshop it via email. Does that sound reasonable? The one thing I wanna add, per Todd, because he says it all the time, and I wanna like honor that. One thing I don't think we've yet like put a hook into that we've decided we wanna do, that one of the things we're asked as the commission is to do like a report that we present to city council around something specific or kind of some kind of research project that we're doing. I don't think we've ever found like what that can be or we want it to be. So I'd like to use some of that time to kind of figure that out. I think we have a lot of good like nuggets and starting points, but for example, if we're wanting to do housing, we want to do research around that. Like kind of doing things that are in the spirit of the same thing, if that makes sense. Like, so if it's housing, if we want to do research, we should probably do that on housing versus doing a lot of divergent different things. But I just wanted to uplift that as part of like our ordinance and then so does that help answer? Sorry, I was like all over the place.
No,
but-
it does, and I mean, like, I think like with housing, like I think there's a pretty broad consensus that housing is like pretty much a
Yeah.
crisis
Yeah.
in the city and beyond, particularly for low-income folks. But that's also, there's a lot of things in housing, right? So I think like,
Yeah.
really like trying to push us to say like,
Yes.
these are our 2, like, we're gonna work on services for homeless people.
Yes.
Or lawyers in eviction, or like,
Yes.
whatever, but
Yes.
to really like be as specific as
Yes.
possible about our priorities for the next year, I think, for me, that would be really helpful.
Yes, so, yes, the spirit of it, I don't know the how at the moment, but I think the spirit of it is to walk away from the retreat with that being very
Yeah.
clear for all of us, like, this is what we're gonna focus on. These are the ways we wanna go about that, even if it's not all fleshed out, right? It just is like, we're gonna attack it from this point of view, which is also some of the legwork that Wolfgang has been doing, even just related to housing or the community engagement work. I missed part of that meeting. But yes, I was saying in the beginning, I want us to come together with the ideas, because that's what I've loved about our commission, is that we all have different perspectives and insights, and I want us to feel like when we do decide the focus, that we all had say. It wasn't just like my agenda or Ernest's agenda or Todd's agenda. It's like we collectively are saying, like, we agree upon this, and we've had time to talk it out and ask all the questions, but I don't understand this, or I don't understand that, or we are focusing on housing, but we don't understand these 3 things, so we need to do our first task work to identify those things. So it'll be more clear, obviously, during the retreat, but that's my thoughts in response of the how in the moment. But yes, I would want us to walk away as clear as we did last time of like, these are our focuses, and then a little bit more. We did a great job last year of identifying the focuses, but it kind of fell apart in the like, when we went ad hoc to kind of what the next step was. I think it was just overwhelming. I don't think it's anyone's fault, but I think we're adding new things. We've learned a lot from that experience, and we're gonna take that into this new retreat.
I agree. I think we did a great job of getting information,
Yes,
but it was so very broad,
it was.
and not knowing how exactly to tackle those things really made it difficult. So this is what I would ask is, and I know we did something, Wolfgang, you did something last week, but I don't know if it was in terms of this, is if we're gonna do something around housing, if we can put together a spreadsheet with some links of some of
I can't
the,
take credit, that's all Lindell.
oh, Lindell, okay. Can we get some links together about what are some of the hot button topics or the groups here in Charlottesville that are doing something within housing, like Charlottesville Plans, FAR, I don't know what else is out there, but there are some other organizations that we can put in a spreadsheet that we can, that would have a link to it, that we could click on to get information about. So when we came in on our meeting on the 16th, we had information to know, I think this is we could probably do some ranking and say, this is what we need to tackle, or this is where Rights Commission can be more effective. And I think that's kind of, especially around housing, because it's so much stuff going on with housing in the city, that we having a place or a group we can champion behind will make a difference. It's something that we can go to city council with some information to say, this is what we believe you guys should continue to support. Would make a difference.
And yeah, you mentioned that, I feel like we lost momentum a little bit in that, but I think it was a great gain that we had last year, was talking to council and being very clear of like how they need information. I think we started it and then we didn't get to formalize it enough to say like, this is what we found, this is what we're requesting of you, and making it kind of the package that Councilor Payne gave us. And then
Right.
John Sales, y'all can't see who's online, but he is here in the audience. So, John, if you have something to say to us, please, when it comes to public comment, please let us know. You were about to say something?
I had 2 thoughts. The first, so the end of like, how are we about to accomplish all the things that we want to accomplish? If we're able to find a few actionable items or an area, I think Todd has repeatedly recommended sort of a project management approach. And so one of the things that I think the community, I can't speak for community engagement, they're not on it, but I think I'm speaking for them this evening because Lindell asked me to. Community engagement wants to host a panel to get various actors in Charlottesville together to either work as sort of a town hall or as an expert panel, format still TBD. And so if we want to do an event like that, we kind of have to plan it back. And so maybe part of the retreat can be identifying specific actionable items that fall into a specific category we want to take action on, probably affordable housing, emergency housing in Charlottesville, and then kind of take time in the tree to actually plan what that would look like. Who wants to be involved, what kind of timeline it wants to be on, and like that's kind of the planning out the how we get there. And the thing, yes, Ernest, you were talking about the Google Doc that Lindell had shared out, the Google Sheet she shared out last week. And that's different stakeholders in Charlottesville to speak with. We obviously have sort of a scarce resources of if 2 or more of us meet, then we must have a meeting, but we can still do lots of one-on-ones. So that sheet is an opportunity for us to identify people we'd love to talk to, have those one-on-ones, and then use it as an opportunity to share that knowledge with the rest of the commission. And potentially they could be one of the people that we invite to speak on the panel too. So it's kind of multi-purpose.
Thank you.
I feel like Todd and Victoria had things.
I know, you just took it out of my mouth.
Okay,
I was
great,
waiting
great.
for you to stop to
You're
say
like-
that, but yes, I was just about to say that. Todd?
I was just gonna say, while on the topic of like a Google document that gives like housing informational resources in Charlottesville, The Haven has a really awesome part of their website that's called educational resources, and it has just like a list of like articles about housing, like zoning or policies, or people's like testimonials on how they have seen housing shift in their life, or proposals that people have brought to the past to, in some cases, to city council for things like where parking should be, or like what kind of curve is the appropriate curve and things like that. I can email that to you all, but I think it's a really cool resource, and it gives you a lot of like the history of why Charlottesville's kind of shaped the way it is.
So before Todd responds, for all of us to remember, our focuses from last year was the community equity assessment, community engagement, equity in city government review, and then the Human Rights Commission and Office of Human Rights capacity expansion, which got answered like pretty immediately after our retreat with the approval of an inting person. So those are just the 4 areas identified. Todd, I know you got something.
I was just trying to go through all these emails, trying to find where the link to that spreadsheet was, and I put a bunch of names and contact is in there already. I can't remember where it was. When I just go on OneDrive and find where the SharePoint was, because I think it's not on Google. I think it is actually in our SharePoint, which is good, so that it's easy to find. I was going to say that, if housing is already kind of in the minds of commissioners the focal point, it's, as you said, it's so broad that really you could spend the time at the retreat narrowing down what aspect of housing, because there's so many people working on it, but there's aspects of it that may be overlooked. And John, you're on here watching tonight. I'm thinking a lot about the SISRAP program, which is the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistance Program, and that's something that John and his team administer for the city, but it's a city program. And just thinking about looking at that program and understanding it better and saying how this is a thing that the city is spending money on. Is there a way that we can do something unique and different with that? Because I think there's more flexibility in that program than, say, like the Housing Choice Voucher program, which John also and his team also have to administer, but is very, very strictly regulated by HUD. So I'm curious that, that's just one example. And that's something you can recommend directly to council because council controls that money, right? So just thinking about stuff that you are uniquely positioned to impact, that maybe like a niche of a larger topic like housing. That's just what's coming to mind. And I appreciate you talking about back planning, because once you narrow it down, you know which experts to bring to the table for your panel discussion, and for your own education, and then also for that of the public while you're doing this.
And I will lead and guide you to the end, I promise. That is my strength. Anything else? So I guess an actual item for all of us is just to review the priorities from last year, just as a focal point, but if there's something else that you feel like we should focus on, maybe we can workshop that meaning like just send it via an email to all of us, and then we can maybe narrow it down so we can potentially go into the retreat knowing our focus. Again, if it's housing, then we can dwindle it down, that one of the things maybe focusing on what specifically we're coming, if we can come with as prepared as possible, if that's the case, but, we can workshop prior to the meeting. So that was broad, not great project management. So, if we could have this by, or your ideas and thoughts, by March 3rd, is that reasonable? It gives us 2 weeks to think about this?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. All right, so by March 3rd, if we can have I can have your ideas, then we can, circulate that. Decide. Okay.
And I'm resending that link to the spreadsheet that has all the different people's
Thank
names
you.
on it, so you can
And
add to that.
Wolfgang resent the focuses that I was just reading. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And if you're getting it, a reminder, if we all had the birthday backgrounds,
So
it's
huge.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. That was kind of cute to see that. All right, any more questions, comments, concerns about the retreat? All right, Wolfgang, I'll turn it over to you for the
Okay.
updates for that
Yeah.
meeting.
Don't have my notes on hand because they were analog, not digital. But I'm here to report on the, I think February 2nd, ad hoc committee meeting. So Lindell was representing community engagement, me and Ernest were representing housing. We had 3 things that we discussed. First was planning for upcoming expert panel in town hall. And we already kind of discussed that briefly, but that Google Sheet is sort of lists people that we think might be good individuals on a panel. We still have yet to decide if we want to have sort of the framework be an expert panel or a town hall format. Maybe town hall with experts that could potentially respond to citizen comments. So we're still trying to figure out what the format should be, and then also who we want to be on it. So that's still brewing. Your feedback, welcome. And then housing discussed 2 issues. First, affordable housing and the opportunity that this commission might have to give its voice during the city budget forums. I attended the last city budget forum that was open to the public, and there's an opportunity on March 22nd. It's also open to the community to give our opinion about what we should do, and I think we have an opinion to support affordable housing and the city funding it in the city. I circulated a letter that everybody should have. If you want me to bump it, I can bump it. I'd love your feedback on that. Actually, I think I need to rewrite it because Todd, I saw your feedback on it, and some of the notes I had in the bottom were just notes from the first public budget forum, not actually things that should be included in the letter. So I might want to clean it up a little bit so folks aren't confused about that. And then we also brainstormed a little bit about like data exploration and the ways that we might be able to provide meet the research question piece of the ordinance, since we're supposed to research and provide a research something research related to council, and I think we still are yet to figure out what that might look like. So I think that was most of the work that our committee did. Due out to being thinking about panel structure, thinking about panel experts, and then the letter to support funding for affordable housing. Ernest, did I forget anything? Is it okay? All right.
Thank you for the update, I appreciate it. I was on for half, then I had to get off, so thank you for that. We're zooming through this fast, which is great, we didn't have a lot on our agenda today. So now we will open it back for public comment. If you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand, and if you're on the phone, you can press *9. Okay. Thank you for those that are online viewing us. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. All right, so there's no response, obviously, to the public. Are there any commissioner updates?
I don't think we talked about all of them.
Okay.
I feel like there was some event that was circulated.
I was just
No,
thinking
it's
about,
like-
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't know what it is, there's something.
The VABF, which is the, no, that's the Virginia Association for Biological Farmers, sorry. I was talking to somebody.
Take off that hat,
Was
put
it-
on a different hat.
Past. VAHR, the Virginia Association for Human Rights. Curtis Porter, who I guess is still currently the acting president or chair of that group, sent out an invitation that they were trying to meet and kind of rekindle that group. But I think they met on a date that neither of us, Jessica nor I, could meet. Remember that? Do you remember?
Yes. I
Um,
saw that flurry and I was like,
but that's something, I don't know where they're going to take that, but it's just another thing to keep in mind, that how do we want to engage with that group if indeed it can sort of materialize again. So I remember it came to mind because I know this commissioner update thing was something that that was often brought up in that section, so I thought I'd mention it.
I found the event, okay.
that was the
So-
VA one? Sorry, say that again, Todd? That was the VA one?
The
No.
VAHR,
Yes.
yeah.
So what were they saying about Sue? Like, there was a representative, like, from Charlottesville that Sue was fulfilling.
Sue Lewis used to be on it, yeah.
Right.
She used to be like the representative of it.
But
yeah.
now, is it still okay if it does get restarted, it's just you and I? that
It
are
would be
representing
the two of us at the moment, yeah. I think we're by default, like, directors and chairs are
it? Okay.
on the VAHR board. I was gonna say the wrong thing
Gotcha.
again.
Okay. And Todd, I'm trying to access that list you just sent. It says you do not have access.
The one that, I just sent out.
Yes.
That's curious. I didn't create it, but I can try to give you
Oh,
access.
I can't. It says I can request access.
Oh, yeah, maybe Lindell grants access. I'll try to see if I can
No worries.
give you access. I'm not sure how I got access.
Anything else?
Yeah, it's not really an update, but,
Bless you.
I want to encourage us to think about whether this commission should play a role in opining about the rezoning process for the city, because I think there are multiple issues related to affordable housing, but one of them is just the construction of more housing generally, and that's an important part of creating affordable housing, is just having more housing. So I guess I'm encouraging us to think about, whether there are ways that we can show up in that process, as part of our sort of thinking about housing. Obviously, we can talk about it at our retreat.
That's good. I took note, but make sure to add that one of the things that we should consider for the retreat, but yeah, it's good.
And there's just been a lot of pushback in the community and a lot of narrative that I think is false about why the rezoning is bad, or, from certain people's perspectives. So I think having this commission look at it and potentially say that we actually think it's really important, given the
Yeah.
racist history of
Yes.
zoning and the
Yes.
efforts to undo that through this
Mhm.
process. So I guess I think that we could have an important voice
Yes.
to add to that discussion, because
Yes.
there's just been so much on the other side.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, Mary. Thank you. Anything else, y'all? It always feels weird when we end really early. But I feel like we're gaining momentum. It's part of that, being in a new year and kind of setting things up, so, yes.
I found the event I was thinking about. Livable Seaville is hosting an online homelessness in Charlottesville
what
is a
I said.
housing problem webinar, March 1st, 6:30,
I think I signed up for that one.
so.
So I take it we won't have our regular meeting next month because the retreat's on the same day it would be. Is that right?
Yes.
So, okay.
Is that right? Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I look
and
for, I hesitant because I look for Todd. Yes.
and I don't think we just yeah, that would have been the same day as
Yeah.
the meeting. And then Committees usually meet the first Thursday, and that's
Yeah.
still open here, I think. Let me make sure again. Like, I'm always, it's been a little confusing. Let me make sure.
Except this next one
And will
is the
that one-
Carver Rec one, right?
The next, so let me kind of go through the dates here, and maybe I should send an email with a summary of these, but Thursday, March the 2nd is the committee meeting date, and nobody else is in city space, so that's in person. Then the 16th of March is a Thursday, and that is our retreat meeting. We'll be at Carver because city council's in here. Then, what's the next one? Then the next one is April the 6th committee meeting, and that will also be at Carver because council's in here. But it'll be in a smaller room at Carver because the big room is already taken. It's complicated.
Yeah.
I think that's, and then that's the end of the like moving around stuff.
Okay. So sorry, are we gonna be in person or virtual for the committee meeting?
All in person.
All
Yeah.
in person, okay.
Every one of those is in person.
Okay.
Because
perfect.
we were considering virtual for some of those because we weren't sure about finding a place, and then now we've found a place for
Okay.
everything.
So no more virtual this year,
We,
unless we determine it.
yeah,
Okay.
or something happens,
Okay, that
you
virtual
know,
is fine.
whatever, you know.
Okay,
Yep. But for now,
Sounds good.
yes, nothing on the calendar that's virtual.
okay. Anything else, y'all? Thank you. All right, I have to officially end the meeting. What time is it? So we will call this meeting, what's the reverse to order? The opposite of order. They're ending this meeting. What'd you say, Todd?
Adjourn.
Adjourning, thank you. I was like, what's the opposite of calling to order? Adjourn. We will adjourn this meeting at 7:39 PM. Thank y'all. Bearing with me.
Not calling to disorder.
Oh, it's a lot of big brain action.
Yes,
At the end of the day, I'm like, I've used up all of it. I only have so much.